Alright, in this video we are going to practice naming the quadrant or axis that we're on, depending on certain information that we're given like this. Here's some background information that you need to know to be able to do this problem. So first of all, if you're looking at a unit circle, alright, here's a y-axis and here's an x-axis. Now this is the unit circle, meaning the radius is 1. What you first have to remember is that sine and cosine, if you look at any point on this line, you know how any point has coordinates x and y? Well, on the unit circle, the x-coordinate is always the cosine of the angle. So, so there's an angle here. So the x value is always cosine and the y value is always sine. Okay, so that's the first thing you need to know, is that cosine is an x value on the unit circle and sine is a y value on the unit circle. So for that reason, you're going to be able to know where sine and cosine are positive and where they are negative. So for example, in this quadrant right here, the first quadrant, the x values are positive and the y values are positive. So as far as sine and cosine, it would be positive and positive, x's and y's. Now in this quadrant over here, maybe I should change colors. In this quadrant, because we're to the left, x values are now going to be negative because we're over here to the left. Y values will still be positive. So cosine is negative and sine is positive. Now in this quadrant down here, oh, you know what, I should be using these fancy colors. In this quadrant, cosine is negative and sine is also negative, alright, because it's left and down. And finally, in this quadrant over here, this is first, second, third, now the fourth quadrant, the cosine or x value is going to be positive because it's to the right. But the sine values or y values are going to be negative. Okay, so this is your thought process when you're talking about whether or not sine and cosine will be positive. By the way, if I say that cosine is positive, another way of saying that is saying that cosine is greater than 0. Alright, that just means it's positive. Okay, now what about tangent? What about tangent? So here's another little piece of information that you have to keep on tap. Tangent is sine over cosine. Alright, that's something that you should have memorized. Tangent is sine over cosine. So if I want to talk about the sine, meaning positive or negative, of tangent, well, just remember, I'm going to take these two values and divide them, right? Sine over cosine. Alright, it's like the y value divided by the x value. So for this quadrant right here, let's see, is there any other color I haven't used yet? I guess I'll just have to use white. In this quadrant over here, tangent is going to be positive because it's a positive divided by a positive. But in the second quadrant, I have a positive divided by a negative, that's negative. Now down here I have a negative divided by a negative, that's positive. So here in the fourth quadrant I have a negative divided by a positive, that's negative. Alright, so these white signs tell you where tangent will be positive or negative. Alright, so that's something that you need to know, background. Now here's the last thing you need to know. You need to know what secant, cosecant, and cotangent are. Now these are just the reciprocals of the three functions we were just talking about. Secant is just the reciprocal of the cosine function. Cosecant is the reciprocal of the sine function. And cotangent is the reciprocal of the tangent function. Okay? So that means that secant and cosine are both going to be positive in the same places. So wherever cosine is positive, secant will be positive. Wherever sine is positive, cosecant is positive. And wherever tangent is positive, cotangent is also positive. Okay, as long as it's defined, which we'll talk about. Alright, I think that's enough information to get us started on doing these actual problems. So looking at number 16, we're told that the tangent of an angle is greater than 0. So in other words, the tangent is positive. So before I go any further, let's talk about where tangent is positive. Now remember our little discussion. Tangent is positive in the first quadrant and in the third quadrant. Okay, so I'm going to use highlighting to help us visualize. So tangent is positive here, and tangent is positive here. Okay, now they give us this other piece of information. So far, so we're supposed to name the quadrant. So we've narrowed it down to either the first quadrant or the third quadrant. But now we have a new piece of information. The secant is less than 0. In other words, secant is negative. Well, remember, secant is the reciprocal of the cosine function. Alright, so they are negative and positive in the same place. Okay, so when you see the secant, think about cosine. Where is cosine negative? Well, cosine is negative to the left because remember, cosine is like an x value. And x values are negative over here to the left. So if secant is negative, that means cosine is negative, which means that this must be the quadrant that we're talking about, the one that's to the left. So the answer to number 16 is quadrant 3. Okay, let's do that again for number 17. Okay, now the first piece of information is that the secant is undefined. So again, secant is the reciprocal of the cosine function. So we're talking about, hold on, let me do the whole thing. So we're talking about the secant of beta is undefined. Well, that's going to be the reciprocal of cosine. So that's 1 over the cosine of beta. So where is this undefined? Well, this will be undefined if the cosine is 0. So where is cosine 0? Again, remember cosine is an x value on the unit circle. So where are the x values equal to 0? The x values are equal to 0 right on the y-axis. Alright, it's not to the right where x values are positive. It's not to the left where x values are negative. It's right on the line. So the cosine, which is an x value, will be 0 in these two places. So one of these dots tells us the answer, positive y-axis or the negative y-axis. But wait, we have one more piece of information. The cosecant is positive. Okay, remember that cosecant is the reciprocal of the sine function. So the question is, where is the sine function positive? Okay, well, is the sine function positive up high, or is the sine function positive down low? Well, remember that the sine function on the unit circle is a y value. So y values are positive up here. So that means this is the answer that we're looking for. So that's why the answer is the positive y-axis. Okay, positive y-axis. And that is the answer to problem number 17. Okay, how about problem number 18? Alright, it's all about the diagrams, in case you haven't figured that out. Alright, now don't be jealous. I know everybody can't draw a perfect circle the way I do. It's because I'm a natural artist, which everyone is not. So just do your best, and you know, it'll be okay. So let's see. Sine is 0. Okay, so remember that sine, we're talking about y values. Okay, so where are the y values equal to 0 on this unit circle? Y values are 0 on the x-axis. So either here or here. One of these will be the answer. So to figure out which one it is, we need the second piece of information. Cosine is less than 0. In other words, cosine is negative. Well, cosine is an x value. So where are x values negative? X values are negative on the left-hand side. So that's the answer we are looking for. So that's why the answer is the negative x-axis. Okay, and that leaves us with number 19. This will be the last problem for the video. Alright, one more perfect circle, just killing it. Okay, I could do this all day. Now, again, the sine function on the unit circle is a y value, so greater than 0. So I need the y values to be positive. So far that means that we are in the first quadrant or second quadrant, because these are the quadrants where the y values, and thus the sine function, are positive. So we'll need the second piece of information to narrow down whether it's the first quadrant or the second quadrant. Cotangent. Okay, remember the cotangent is the reciprocal of the tangent function. Okay, so where is, so we want the tangent to be negative, less than 0. So where is the tangent function negative? Because cotangent will be negative in the same places. So remember what we talked about in the background information. Tangent is negative in the second quadrant and in the fourth quadrant. Okay, so tangent is negative here and here. Okay, which means that this is the quadrant that we want, or we want tangent to be negative and we want sine to be positive. So that puts us in the second quadrant. Okay, so quadrant 2 is the answer. Alright guys, I hope this video has been helpful to you. That does it for me today. I will see you on the next video. Peace out.